Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad. We were sent over a code for Crow Country, which is a survival horror game in the PS1 style, very much in the realm of your early Resident Evils 1, 2, 3, those early games. You can see it just by looking at it. That is very clearly the style and what this game is looking for. So I want to start off with this is not my normal type of game. I very much love Resident Evil after Resident Evil 4. Not so much those early ones. I do not do well with a lot of the kind of top-down PlayStation 1 era games. That's just really not my style of game. So I jumped into this one. It's October. Time for these. It's a good time for this style, this feeling of game. So I kind of jumped in knowing this isn't my thing, and I was actually really surprised because I actually just kind of ran through this in like 2 days because I was just really enthralled by it. It was a lot of fun, very interesting game. Now I do want to preface a lot of this with saying I have no judgment and have no hesitation at using guides myself or if people are going to use guides. So I did pull up a guide multiple times as I was playing this. I didn't think there was anything too obtuse. It was a lot of like, I pulled up the guide and went, oh yeah, that makes sense. Or I pulled up a guide and went, oh yeah, I just forgot that I did that a couple hours ago. I should go back there. Yep, that makes sense. That's where I should go. So I don't think it necessitated that guide as much as it was just that like safety blanket of like, okay, but like, I don't like this, but I'll use a guide. It'll be okay. So I do want to start out with the kind of the style and the gameplay of this more so than the story, just because I think that's kind of what would draw a lot of people to this is that mid 30s, 40s, like, ooh, PS1 game. I want to try that. So like I said, the style is there visually. It's there. The text has that feeling. The item pictures and images have that feeling. Just everything has that late 90s feel to it. And it's done really well. It kind of feels like the best version of one of those games where you're like, oh, okay, this took all of those things and took inspiration from and it just did all of that with 25 years of game design and just technological improvement that we can get to this game of Crow Country now to be able to see what those things would be like if you made it in 2024. Doug recently talked about UFO 50, and I think talking about how that's it's NES era games made with the mindset of 2024, and this kind of has that feeling we almost talked about at the ending of it where I was like, okay, this has the feeling of a late 90s PS1 game with the mindset of 2024. So as you're playing this, lots of puzzles, lots of where to go. You get this item, oh yeah, I remember that. I got the gold key. Okay, I remember there was a key back there, door back there that needed the gold key. Okay, I got a chain. Oh yeah, there was a pulley that I could put a chain on. Lots of that kind of thought where you get an item and then you remember like, okay, where do I need to take this? Lots of other like codes are in there for, okay, I saw this number there. Lots of in my mind, I think of them like Uncharted puzzles where it's like, okay, like I have this note that talks about and I have to interpret that to my puzzle. So it's like, there's one where it's talking about names and those names correlate to directions, like those types of things in the puzzles. Again, no hesitation to jump into a guide for a lot of those. The combat in this, you pick up a few weapons as you go, majority handgun, again, very similar to that PS1 era, but you do get your shotguns and all that type of stuff. Combat is 95% avoidable. I did play this skipping around a lot, just kind of like booking it through rooms and things like that. There are a couple like mini bosses. All of those have like some puzzle elements that you can kind of use to get around them. So you can shoot them, fight them, or do kind of a puzzle in the room that you're in with them to kind of get around them. So combat can be very minimal in this if you want to. You could go through and, go crazy. I don't think items were in short supply. I never felt like I was like, oh my gosh, I need more ammo or I can't do anything. But at the same time, the game does cap everything. So there's a cap on how much ammo you can have for each gun. There's a cap on health packs, all that. So you never feel, it's well balanced, but you never feel that like, oh my gosh, I just have everything. I just run around and shoot anything I want. But you never get that like, oh, I'm going to run out feeling. The aiming with it, so you aim with the right stick, you kind of hold the button, aim around with the right stick. Again, not my style of game. I really struggle with the aiming. I think that's why eventually I did just kind of move to like, okay, I'm going to run through everything, just because I was really having trouble like lining up, like, okay, am I going to hit this thing with my bullets? Again, bullets are kind of limited, so I didn't necessarily want to waste it all just kind of shooting in the air because I'm having trouble with it. The guns do have laser sights that you can find. The only one I found was for the handgun, and I ended up just using the handgun because it made it so much easier to shoot stuff. So finally with this, it is one of those games where there's extra things all over. You can get different ranks at the end that unlocks things. There are 15 secrets to find. Each one of those are like gun upgrades, item upgrades, just different things like that around there. Lots of letters to find, lots of background information. The story is told a lot through different things that you're picking up as you go through. So to kind of transition into that, basically what you have with this game is you show up in your car. You are a special agent there to kind of investigate this amusement park that's been closed down. And that kind of sets the stage for you wandering through here and figuring out what's going on. You learn really early on, there's a lot of weird stuff here. There's creepy looking monsters. So as you just dig into all this stuff, of course, the amusement park Crow Country has so many more different layers to it. You start to understand where these creatures came from. You start to understand why all these traps are here. You do meet up with a few side characters here and there who all kind of have their own perspective on it. They're all kind of tied into this story some way or another. And one of the things I really liked is there's a couple big twists towards the last maybe half hour. It's not a long game, maybe 5 or 6 hours. So that last 10 to 20% has a couple of really good twists. And I actually thought that those were not telegraphed, but they're definitely like breadcrumbs that you probably could have made those decisions and those assumptions ahead of time of like, oh, I think this is where it's going. But it does a good job of just kind of teasing some of those things without going like, hey, this is going to happen, or getting that last piece where it's just like, and out of nowhere, here comes this thing. So the story is really well paced. It kind of keeps you invested as you go along. Again, you'll meet some of these side characters and they'll have different connections, and you'll talk to them and you'll kind of get this different perspective. Like, okay, why is this character here? Why aren't they there? What are they doing? Are they actually telling me the truth? A lot of that kind of weird deception going on of like, who's on whose side? Are these people there to help you? Are they not? And really the thing about it is just, it's one of those games that I think kind of hit at the right moment for me where it's like, okay, I just kind of want something different, something unique. And this is definitely not something that you see every day. And I think that is very much the game's benefit, where it's just, it does have that huge nostalgia kick for, I think, those of us probably around my age of like, okay, I remember seeing games like this. And even if this style of game isn't your thing, I think that it does enough to put you back into that mindset. They're like, okay, this is cool. Like, we can make games that still have that late 90s feel and aesthetic to them, and fix them up a little bit, make them more modern and make them more accessible. And I think this is a great example of that. And ultimately, just it's a great game. It's a well-made game that I had hesitations going into if I was going to enjoy this, if it was something I'm just going to have to hit the guide, I'm just going to go through it, or if there's actually going to be something here for me. And it turned out that really, really liked it. Probably sitting at the moment one of my top 5, top 10 games of the year. It is a very, very cool game, even if it's not something that you feel like is going to speak to you the way that something else might. So for sure something, if you have any interest in this kind of era of games, for sure something to give a try. Or if you're just that survival horror, October, spooky, whatever thing that's going on, if that's where you're at right now too, I think it's a great fit for that as well. But we are Force Gaming. Leave a comment below, subscribe to our channel. There's a link to Sports on Coffee as well. See you later.